Welcome to the third episode of our Mork Borg series, everyone. This series we sat down with Pelle Nilsson, the writer of Mörk Borg, an apocalyptic dark fantasy RPG about dealing with the end of the world in a very heavy metal-inspired setting. We are also joined this series by Agatha Cheng, one of the hosts of the Asians Represent podcast, filling in for Amelia. This episode, we learn a bit more about Pelle and start diving into discussing how the process went. Join me after the show for our normal show closer stuff and Patreon information and thank yous. Hopefully this will be the last cold open by myself for the month, but we shall see. With all of that out of the way, enjoy the show, everyone.
Welcome back to our discussion episode. Last time we finished our session 0 for Mörk Borg. This episode, we will be discussing the character creation process. We're excited to welcome back Pelle Nilsson. Do you want to reintroduce yourself again for everyone at home and tell us a little about the character you made in your last episode? In our last episode.
Sure. I'm Pelle Nilsson, the writer of the RPG, Mörk Borg, and I made a wretched royalty character called Terras during the last episode. That was really fun to do that with you, and I'm vindictive and cruel. I have broken crushed ears, and I like to put things on fire. I'm a pyromaniac, and I have a sword that despises me, but can also help me if that's the case. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Amazing. Brian?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us about your character?
Yeah, so I made Hargha, if that's pronounced correctly. They are conflicted and arrogant. They don't have a class. They're classless. So I wanted to see how that system worked out. So they are an interesting individual. They carry around a femur for some reason, even though they have a hook hand. One of their hands was replaced by a hook. So I guess I do hook and femur combat, which is interesting. And I like to make jewelry from the teeth of the dead, as you do, because why let it go to waste? And curiously, there is a many-eyed guardian angel that follows me along, very biblically accurate, which lets me heal twice as fast, but mysteriously, my companions heal twice as slow, which is interesting. So that's Hargha.
Yeah.
It's
rude.
I might add that the army I deserted are hunting me as well. So I'm on the edge. Yeah. Yeah.
And you've got a very vindictive against yourself sword as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just lots of enemies.
Right. Exactly. They're everywhere. All right. Agatha, you want to tell us about your character?
Heck yeah. The character that I created is called Noggle, though it seems like everything about me is not about my nails. So I have many other body horrors to compensate for that.
So many.
I am gutter-born scum. I escaped from the Tvelandian orphanarium with their knife and their red poison, of which I can use 2 doses of.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that I tell people that whenever I meet them, but I'm also saying it's not a secret. I, in addition to my trusty donkey, which I'm pretty sure I got off of just someone else who died, and their donkey was wandering around, and I was like, that's mine now. Yeah. I also have let's see, is it a blessing? Is it a skill? It could be both. I have absolutely disgusting phlegm that I can shoot off at people in close distances to make them ill.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of those dinosaurs in Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yes, I am definitely a creature. I have some terrible traits. I'm a loudmouth. I do not like to shut up when I should. I am also prone to substance abuse. Maybe I partake in the red poison from time to time, and that's why there are only 2 doses left. Who knows? My hands are caked with sores. They're absolutely wretched. And I also like to pick my nose a lot.
Yeah.
Very deeply. In addition to all of these attractive traits about me, I also produce some kind of spores. I don't understand the science behind it. I have not grown up with formal education. Again, I escaped from an orphanarium. Those spores are apparently very attractive to evil creatures. And so they kind of follow me around.
We just need to find some like really potent deodorant, I think. Should be good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's the cure to all my problems.
Just a little self-care, right?
Yeah.
That's so good. Well, this crew is certainly a motley one. So I'm very curious to see how the fan fiction is going to stack up for these folks. But before then, let's go ahead and dive right into a segment that we are calling D20 for Your Thoughts.
D20 for Your Thoughts?
In this segment, we want to talk to our guests about their thoughts on the character creation process and how it relates to the system and to other games. Before we begin, let's get the most generic RPG podcaster interview question out of the way. How did you get into RPGs in the first place?
Well, I started to play role-playing games back in the 80s. So that was almost 40 years ago when I was a very young kid. It was sort of a golden age in Sweden back then. There were games coming out from a company that produced like Mutant, which you might have heard of. It was released in 1984. And then a game called Dragoner, that is a game that is called Dragonbane, that freely released last year. So I played the first editions of those games back then. So and I started to write back then as well. I wrote adventures, of course, and also tried to create games as well. So that's how it started. Yeah.
Nice. So
Very
you
cool.
started young.
Yes, very young.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In your opinion, Pelle, what makes for a great character creation system? Like what component do you like to see?
I think it's I like both quite detailed and very detailed systems as well. So like writing long backstories and so on, where you get very fleshed out. There's a lot of lore which you can connect to and so on, and you have skills and abilities and so on. So I can like that as well. But also really enjoy, and that's why we did Mörk Borg, to create systems that get you started in like 10 minutes, so you can get it to the table and play, introduce it to people that don't know the rules at conventions, for example. You can get the character sheet on a Mörk Borg character sheet on a convention, and you can start playing, and the GM can introduce rules to you. And when you start playing, you don't need to know the rules, and the GM can grasp the rules in like 5 minutes. So I kind of like both of these ways to go with game systems. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both fun in different ways.
Yeah.
So we like to talk about character sheets or playbook layout, since it's the first impression that most people have after the cover of the book. What kind of story do these character sheets tell us about the gameplay experience before we even sit down to play?
I think the character sheet, the official one that we made, really tells you a lot about the game. It's quite sparse. It's not too much to fill in. It looks kind of deadly with a skull and the raven and the flail and so on. And it's a little bit art punky in its design as well, which make you kind of understand what Mörk Borg is about, I think. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think that pretty much hits to the heart of it, right? It's like the sheets. The sheets are phenomenally like in tune with the art style of the book. Yeah. They're like a nice, beautiful extension of it, and it has that like that imagery in there. Like the flail has like lightning coming off of it, and like or cracks of some sort, and there's a skull where your hit points go. Like very. Like a word that comes to mind often with this game is visceral, right? Like a very like primal reaction, which is really setting the tone for how the world probably plays, right?
Yeah, and it's also, there are some small texts on the character sheet as well that explains the omens, how you use the powers, the magic of Mörk Borg, and the rules about equipment and so on. So it's I
really like the way that it's organized.
Yeah,
that the most important thing, the stats are in the middle. Yeah, that's kind of cool. And it's a column.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then I also noticed that you have a rules reference sheet available as well for folks to kind of get the most common rule set just kind of there in one page as well. Really good supplements that you had thought of when you were presenting this game for folks to play.
Yeah, it's free to download from the mörkborg.com. There's the reference sheet, and you also have it in the back of the book as well. So
absolutely,
all of the rules you need to know to get started and to play.
So this next question is kind of for all of us as a whole, and I'd be curious what your thoughts are on this as well, Pelle, but how do we think character creation in Mork Borg stacks up to other systems that we've played or created characters for?
Yeah, this is definitely very solidly an OSR kind of game and then also character creation process. Yeah, the 3D6, that kind of classic. I like it. I like it a lot. I feel like it gives one thing that I really like about the character creation process is that there are a lot of narrative prompts. So it gives you, it's randomized, but in a way where I can latch onto certain details to be like, oh, this is something that I can like think of a story for. And I think that is like a big strength of this.
Yeah, it really gives you those tools to flesh together a solid character in very little amount of effort, which is really cool. But not only a character, but stories as well. Like, I think with my character being classless, like I don't, it has less base, like story gravitas starting out, but like the interesting stuff that we rolled for like the bad traits and like all that other stuff really adds some interesting flavor to this, otherwise just straightforward sort of character, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting because this is a very concise game, but still, even in that, it's pretty modular, where a lot of these things, the terrible traits and so on that we rolled for was optional. So you can opt into one or another. And I thought that was interesting too. It also feels very OSR, where it's like you can pick and choose what you want, whatever that your table wants, that kind of thing, giving you a lot of options as opposed to being more prescriptive in other systems, which also have their strengths. But this is just a very specific design approach.
Yeah, absolutely. I do like that with the class list, there was the like 46 drop the lowest for a couple of the stats. Because I don't know how, if I would have gone negative had I had to roll 3d6 instead for everything or whatever. But I was a little jealous, I have to say, once you got to your super special abilities. Like, those are pretty cool.
Yeah. Were you jealous of my phlegm?
Maybe a little bit.
So actually, I have a question, Pelle.
Yeah.
Like, did you come up with the classless list, like the tables first, and then we're like, oh, we want some classes, or was it the other way around?
No, it was like when I first created the skeleton of the game, it was only paper with all of the rules and monsters and equipment and stuff like that. And then it had no classes at all. So that was the first thing. Then I thought that it would be cool to have the option to pick about 6 different classes. Felt kind of okay to start with, and and it also make them quite. It's every class has this kind of frame, so it's quite easy to begin to start to write your own classes, which many people have done as well. It's both easy and fun to make your own class if you want to do that.
Yeah.
So, but first out, there were no classes, but we added the classes quite early in the process. So it's not attached on. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's like over 50 like fan created classes out there and everything is remarkable. That and I've heard there's been a lot of supplements created from Mork Borg a lot of games inspired by Mork Borg as well, which is really cool. So yeah, it definitely has stacked up over these last few years as something that people have really been enjoying, which is it's been really cool to see kind of the conversations and the different stuff coming out around the Mork Borg system.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
Oh, yeah. And I have another question. So how does the process of character creation reinforce the feel of this game and set expectations for play?
It's quite when you roll your random stuff for your character, it's quite I think they are both fun and very bleak and dark, like the setting of the game. So I think it sets the tone in quite a good way. And it also, the lore, if the first few pages in the book are about the world where you're playing, then it's, the classes add some more things to the lore. It's in the details there as well, but are also very open ending without explaining everything. So it also sets the tone, which we were really looking for. That now, when you have the game, it's your game, and you can create whatever you want. And I think that's what sparked the. It inspired a lot of people to create their own stuff for this game as well. So yeah.
Well, especially like it sounds like it's a very quick sort of game as well, right? Like the resolution systems are pretty easy to understand and perform, right?
Yeah, they are quite easy to grasp, and I didn't know it when I did the rules, but it reminds of many other games as well. But it's very easy. It's like you roll a d20 ability modifier, and 12 is like for a normal test. And if you hit that or more, you succeed. And if you hit 20, it's a crit, like in many other games. And that's about it, more or less. It's important to note that all roles are player-faced. So the players roll for the attacks, and when they get attacked, you roll for your defense to not get hit. So they can make rolls in combat, for example. So yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see that speeding up the process.
Yeah.
Instead of, say, opposed rolls.
And there are no
absolutely
drop stats either, because you need your strength, presence, and agility. All those three are used in combat, and the toughness is very important to survive in the world of Mörk Borg as well. So I don't think there are any drop stats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even just going through like the flavor of everything we had to go through really reinforces that the world you're going to be playing in is not going to be like rainbows and ease of comfort for your characters, right?
Yeah. I love the world building in Gear. So like, Ryan, your character, your weapon is a femur. Like, I think that is so evocative of just like the grimy vibe of this world.
I mean, even if you don't roll it, right? It's a full page in the book. Like the first weapon you see when you're rolling for weapons is you could get a femur. Now here's the rest of the weapons you can get to.
It's the most common weapon in the world.
Absolutely.
The femur.
It's easy to find if you can stomach how you can get it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it really reinforces that really dark tone, but also like you can see a lot of the potential for that dark humor to shine through as well.
Yeah. And
yeah, you definitely have to have an open mind to go a little bit darker with your gameplay for this sort of game.
But I think, the humor shines through, we hope. And we don't recommend it, but we've heard about lots of kids that are playing it as well. But they are having a fun time because they understand that it's not something to take too serious. It's about having a good time together and laugh a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I can see
absolutely.
I can see kids being really into this.
Oh yeah.
Kids have a really a really dark sense of humor.
They really can, absolutely.
And we really don't recommend the book for people under 16. So then, of course, all the people under 16 wants to play it.
Of course.
Yeah.
What can you do at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you at least, you give them fair warning, and as long as they're responsible with it, what's the harm? Amazing. So Pelle, what do you think is one of the biggest flaws of character creation in this system, and what is your favorite part?
Oh, flaws is it's hard to come up with.
It's always a tough one for designers.
But if I have to say something, it might be that if you want to create a character and want to get attached to it, they are quite fragile kind of guys that you create, so they die quite easy in this system. So that might be a flaw, but it's a part of a OSR business. That I mean, in the first role-playing game that was created, a magic user could end up with 1 hit point and a fighter as well. So it's about. I don't really see it as a flaw.
That's very true.
No,
yeah, it definitely harkens to like the roguelike sort of experience with video games nowadays, where you're very squishy and fragile, and you just gotta push through. And you know what? If you're creating a new character every time you get together for a session, it only takes 10 to 15 minutes. So why not? That's awesome. Well, what's your favorite part of the character creation?
My favorite part is a little bit what we've been talking about, because if you create characters together like we did, it's there's a lots of laughs and you start to create your own backstories and adventure seeds and it also, we did the characters quite fast as well, so if you go to a convention, you don't have to bring pre-characters, you can roll them up on the spot there as well. We also have a digital generator that is on our website as well, so you can just make one click, and then you have a ready character to start playing. So but
so good.
I think every character is quite fun in it. There are no boring characters. Everyone, it's really fun, and it sets the tone of the game as well. And most people accept that. Maybe I die, then I create a new character to continue play with. It's not a big deal. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
there are lots of superhero games out there.
That's
so
true.
I think it's fun with this kind of
there's a niche for every kind of experience that we want to play. So speaking of stories, let's discuss our stories. How would we like the story of our 3 characters to play out?
Call to action.
Yeah, like that.
in lieu of me running low on time this week, I'm going to go ahead and skip the banter section of the call to action, but know that I am thoroughly grateful to Pelle and Agatha for joining me on this series. And I thoroughly love this game. But before we let you go for the day, here is our calls to action. If you like what we're doing here and want to support the show, please head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/charactercreationcast and go ahead and sign up for any of our basic tiers. They are all a free trial right now, and they all have tons of great rewards associated with them. Our Stick of the Month Club is at $10 and up. Our custom C3 dice and personalized thank you cards made by Amelia herself go for $5 and up, and the chit chats every week, as well as other little tidbits happen at $1 and up. So go ahead and check those out. We are currently under our operating budget for every month, so any assistance here would be greatly appreciated. We also like to thank our patrons personally every single episode, and in the spirit of keeping these short, we are grouping them by 3. So let's go ahead and get started. Thank you to DJG, aka Tigranosaurus, Eric Bonds, and Daryl Holiday II. We are glad to have you here with us. Shadim Cabal, The Shyest Barbarian, and Benjamin Sweeney. You shouldn't have, but we are so glad you did. Thank you. Lorcan McInnes, Rob Fletcher, and Kevin Brown, thank you for your continued support. Tentacle Duck, John Adamus, and David Chadwick, we are happy to have you here with us. Thank you. Cole McCallum, Carlos Salazar, and Eric S., thanks. Many thanks to Ian Popmeyer, Sorigoth, and Liam Chi, Brian Colm, Garden GM, and Tanglefoot. You rock. Thank you. Blue Kryptonite, Danny, and Nicole Trainer. We're happy to have you here with us. Thank you. Liam Murray, Kenning, and Brian Kurtz. Thank you so much. And finally, Mark E. Fair and Drew Owen. We are so grateful to you. Thank you. And thank you to all of our future patrons. Your support is helping tremendously to help us do this show every single week. Other ways you can help is leaving reviews on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, or even Facebook. We'll read your review right here and thank you personally as soon as we are able to. That is all that we have for today's episode. Next week, we finish the great discussion that we started in this episode, and we get to some truly amazing fan fiction as we figure out what sort of apocalypse we enjoy experiencing with these characters. Something amazing to look forward to. But until then, take care, everyone. Stay safe, drink some water, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for part 1 of this discussion series. We'll be back in part 2, picking up right where we left off.
Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at CreationCast, or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, exclusive merch, and much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.